Do you know what the best part of the early season is? It's the overwhelming optimism. It's a new year. Role players have been added. Young stars have had another offseason to build their game. Anything feels possible. It's a blank canvas with a clean brush for some fan bases. Remember, there's two sides to every highlight. Hidden on the other end of every poster is a small group of franchises stumbling through the dark. Front offices trapped in Groundhog Day nightmares. Fans cheering against reason for a doomed team. It's a hollow contrast to the hopeful euphoria breathing in packed arenas. And even worse, it's lonely. No talk show debates, no viral clips, barely a whisper to prove their existence. It's the unfortunate fate of the teams unlucky enough to be called losers. And today, we're dedicating an entire video to them, to the roster mismanagement, the coaching staff turnover, and all the obstacles between them and a revival. We can't bring hope back to the opening weeks, but we can try and estimate when it could return. Of the four teams we're gonna cover in this video, the New Orleans Pelicans are easily the biggest outlier because they have what everyone else here is searching for: young star power. Zion Williamson has proven he can produce at the highest level in this league already, and Trey Murphy came extremely close to a national breakout last season. Add Jordan Poole to that duo, and you should have the outline of a fringe playoff team until the games actually start, apparently. To put it simple, every one of those guys has looked like a shell of themselves through these first few weeks. Poole and Murphy have been uncharacteristically inconsistent from deep, and Williamson has been shockingly inefficient around the rim. That's basically a Space Jam style nightmare. The team's best players inexplicably losing their best skills, and that's exactly why we'd advise some caution against giving into the doomsday fears. It's absolutely possible that these irregular numbers are just the result of rust and still developing chemistry. In fact, that's probably the most sensible explanation for it. But the Pelicans have two additional factors working against them. One, the Western Conference is a meat grinder grotesque enough to make the FDA pass out. A late run might not be enough to vault them back into playoff contention. And two, the front office has bet the house on the present. New Orleans gave up their 2026 unprotected first-round pick for the right to draft Derek Queen. Look, we like Queen. He's got a face-up game that feels old and new at the same time, and a history of showing up in big moments. But an unprotected first-round pick with the way the 26 class is shaping up is a steep price to pay, especially if that pick ends up being near the top of the lottery. But before Louisiana sports fans turn their attention to the Saints or LS, wow, it's been rough for you guys. Regardless, before the Bayou turns their back on the Smoothie King Center, they should know that it isn't all gray skies and cloudy weather. With Queen, Eve Misi, and most importantly, Jeremiah Fears, who knows, maybe Poole, Murphy, and Williamson aren't compatible, but the team doesn't need all three of them to carry the franchise into the future. Two of them returning to form, with Herb Jones finding his footing after his injury, would be enough for us to believe in the long-term potential of this core. Title contention is a distant dream that shouldn't even be mentioned at this point, but a playoff berth in the next 2 years isn't entirely out of the picture in a league as unpredictable as this one. But we have to say this: if this is truly the season from hell that it looks like it will be early on, just know that the pain of watching another franchise draft Darren Peterson with your team's pick will never fully subside. Joe Dumars, you better find a way out of this lottery. It feels like the Nets have been cursed ever since they moved to Brooklyn. The infamous trade for a 35-year-old Paul Pierce and a 37-year-old Kevin Garnett running on knees that creaked like old door hinges. The Durant, Harden, Irving core that came a centimeter away from a finals appearance. And now the Nets are back in a frighteningly familiar place, the beginning of a rebuild. It's a cycle so demoralizing, it borders on cosmic punishment. But while Brooklyn doesn't have much, the one thing they do have is firepower. Between Michael, ex-Button only Porter Jr., and Cam, possession ends here Thomas, the Nets have built an imperfect but productive offense. Putting the ball in the bucket doesn't look like it'll be an issue anytime soon. Now the defense, that has been an issue, an egregious, debilitating problem with no solutions in sight. Nick Claxton is a valuable rim protector. Noah Clowney and Day'Ron Sharpe have shown some potential as physical stoppers, and that pretty much ends the list of defensive offensive bright spots for the Nets. Outside of those three rangy big men, Brooklyn has no one who's shown they're capable of applying pressure or cutting off driving lanes. There isn't even one weakness to diagnose. It isn't just paint points, three-point defense, or a lack of turnovers caused. It's all of it mixed together into one shapeless soup of incompetence. Fortunately, there's no potentially catastrophic trade that will keep them from reaping the rewards of losing this year. Adding one of the uber-talented prospects sitting at the top of this draft won't fix all their problems, but it will give them a sense of direction, which is good, because in 2027, the Rockets have the swap rights to their first-round pick. A runway that short for a rebuild this expansive is less than ideal, but if they can figure out which of the 4 point guards they picked in this last draft are long-term pieces, Brooklyn can start cobbling together the initial blueprints of an identity. So for this season, it's honestly best to lose games like they have Sam Hinkie at the helm. The Nets should be aiming to take full advantage of the uncontested pick they have this year, and after that, it's time to fully pivot. With all that in mind, it's worth remembering that Cam Thomas is on a one-year deal and will likely be searching for a sizable payday in the upcoming season. That doesn't mean trading him is essential, but given the goals of this season, it's definitely an option worth considering as this year progresses. At the end of the day, whether Thomas stays in Brooklyn or moves on, the path forward for the league's most mundane color scheme is clear. 1 year, one more big piece, then the real work begins. Until then, every loss is another step towards salvation. Kings fans, know that we admire you from the bottom of our hearts. For decades, you've stood by a team with virtually no accomplishments to its name since 50 Cent was charting, uplifting niche role players and holding onto the memories of the Beam team as every other team in your state enjoyed a reason to celebrate. Supporters that loyal and hardy deserve clarity if nothing else. Sadly, the franchise is owned by someone who is terrified of what an outright rebuild would do to his profit margins. Because of that, Sacramento is stuck in a familiar spot. The roster has a handful of playoff caliber contributors, even borderline all-star level players at a few key positions. They just don't fit together at all. DeMar DeRozan and Domantas Sabonis on the floor at the same time is a sin against spacing that handicaps the Kings' offense. And the lack of a true rim protector is further exacerbated by the fact that Sacramento only has one real perimeter defender on the roster. Shout out Neon Keon. But the level of production coming from their mismatched crew of former all-stars will likely keep them afloat, and that's endemic of a problem that's terrorized fans since Mike Bibby was in town: non-committal incompetence. The Kings have made the playoffs in one of the last 19 seasons, and during that stretch, they've only had one pick in the top 3 of the draft. They used it on Marvin Bagley. The next name off the board was Luka Doncic. That's not immediately relevant to their current situation, but it's too ugly to ignore. Of course, with the new lottery setup, tanking doesn't always guarantee a top pick. Just ask Will Hardy and his incredibly suspicious rotations. Nevertheless, loitering around the bottom of the lottery is equivalent to betting the future on a miracle. Sacramento needs to accept who they are, rip the band-aid off, and lose games without fear. That means it's time for a fire sale, which leads us to the only piece of good news we have for California's capital. The team has trade assets. Zach LaVine has a scoring profile efficient enough to entice any number of hopeful contenders that need an offensive boost. Dennis Schroeder is a lucrative six-man and a reliable starter. Moving both of these guys could bring enough back to jumpstart this rebuild in a big way, and that's without broaching the topic of moving longtime Kings like Sabonis or Monk. It might be painful to admit defeat this early into the season, but we don't see another option. There are no young cornerstones waiting to break out, and no projects worth keeping an eye on. Sacramento is starting to forget what it looks like to root for a promising prospect, and even with fans as resilient as these ones, eventually the lack of lasting hope will devolve into apathy. So count this as an open letter to the Kings ownership group. Stop tormenting one of the league's great fan bases and give them the rebuild they deserve. Free these people from basketball purgatory. Longtime viewers will know that we've already made a video about the Suns and the perilous situation they find themselves in, and honestly, we don't feel great about circling back around to drive the desperation home. But this is a video about the worst situations in basketball, which means we have to take another trip to the desert. Let's start with the roster. Outside of Devin Booker, things look bleak. The next most accomplished offensive player on this team is Dillon Brooks, who's being asked to put up more shots than he ever has in his career. After that, it's Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal, and Colin Gillespie. Those are all solid role players who would have value in the league, but they aren't co-stars. That would be one thing if Phoenix had the pieces to build a suffocating defense. Unfortunately, they do not. Mark Williams has had his moments as a rim protector, and Brooks and Booker are far from the worst perimeter pairing in the league, but that's not enough to withstand the versatile offensive attacks of today's game. Even with one of the best two guards in the game, a two guard who's being forced to play point guard, by the way, the Suns are absolutely not a contender. I mean, that would be fine. That's what the draft is for. But Phoenix doesn't have control of their next pick, or the pick after that, and the pick after that. Yeah, that's why we dedicated a full 16-minute video to this situation. There's no easy escape available. Even trading Devin Booker would be difficult because of the absurd extension he signed this offseason, which means Phoenix is more or less married to their current limitations for the foreseeable future. In order for the team to compete through this dark age, the front office will need to start making shrewd trades to acquire underrated talent, and that starts with the one true trade asset they have, Jalen Green, the one-time star of the Rockets rebuild who feels a little redundant next to Booker. Finding ways to package Green into a deal for some complementary pieces could be a massive step towards competing again, but beyond that, the options are pretty limited. It's going to be a gradual climb back that relies on consistently good decision-making and a series of smart adjustments. And we know that sounds impossible to imagine after the tragic odyssey the Suns fans have endured, but let us level with you for a moment. Before noon, before that first post with that distinct green color hit your timelines, we were just basketball fans. We sat through listless seasons, watched promising cores fall apart, and stared blankly at our screens as championship aspirations crumbled right before our eyes. We know that frozen despair that makes dreams feel like cruel reminders of lost times, but we promise, years aren't endless, and for what we know, time isn't circular. The butterflies starting in your stomach, the sensation of pins and needles dancing across your body, the excitement that felt like a distant memory not so long ago. One of these days, you'll be wearing a jersey with pride, daydreaming about tip-off, and the future won't seem all that bleak. The sun really will come up tomorrow, even if you're forgetting what it looks like.